Hey, welcome back to I'm Right with Jesse Kelly. Mike Slater filling in. Thanks for being here. Want to go right to the great Mike Baker, host of the President's Daily Brief. Also, the new PDB Situation Report airs Fridays, 10 o'clock right here on the First TV. Mr. Baker, how do you do, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much, man. Appreciate it.
Great to talk to you. We have a metaphor alert with the Gaza Pier falling apart. I remember when Biden brought up, I think it was at the State of the Union he first brought it up, this pier, and I was like, what? Like, who's it? Where did this idea even come from? And now the dang thing's falling apart. What's going on?
Yeah, it's look, we've done this before, right? I mean, I recall, not personally, but during D-Day, right? We had to build a lot of structures to offload and deliver materials to the beach. But this one is a little bit more problematic, right? The Mediterranean Sea, it's rougher, choppier, prone to more, difficult weather conditions at times. So you would like to have thought that the Corps of Engineers, and they're a terrific organization, so taking nothing away from them, this is just a massively difficult effort in a very, very hostile environment. So we've got about 1,000 personnel out there, military, contractors, others, trying to make this work in order to assist with the delivery of aid into Gaza. And it's, I don't know that they thought it completely through when they got it, because there was so much pressure on the Biden administration, particularly from their progressive base, to be seen as doing something. So they kind of leapt into the breach here. And I don't know that they really gave it a thorough, scrub before they started.
We're looking at here some Army vessels also beached ashore in Israel as well, and some one service member is critically injured as well, a couple other injuries too. So it's a bit of a comedy of errors, unfortunately. But I want to ask you, because all right, so the first time I saw people talking about this, they were dunking on Biden. And you're like, okay, that's obvious. But then I was like, oh, geez, like, should the Army Corps of Engineers be able to pull this off? Like, is this like a very, very common? And I'm like, no, maybe it is. Maybe the military advisors are like, this is a really, really bad idea, Joe. But Joe is like, no, we must do it. So I don't know where the blame goes. Like, should we be worried that they couldn't pull this off? The military couldn't pull this off? Or does most of the blame go to Joe for even demanding it be done?
Well, I think it's probably, it's not that the Army Corps of Engineers couldn't do it or can't do it. But again, it's given the environment. Look, they can't step foot on the beach in Gaza, right? So they are extremely limited in how they can operate around this. And it's a large structure that we're talking about, a massive floating base, right, with a causeway that attaches to the shore. The causeway is whatever, some 1,800 feet long, right? So, and it's got to be stabilized by vessels, by ships on either side of the causeway that are anchored, trying to stabilize this thing. And as you mentioned in the pictures, you can see some of these kind of floating off into the distance. And that's what happened. 4 of them broke off in rough conditions, and 2 of them floated, just kind of off towards Israel, eventually getting beached. And 2 of them ended up getting beached there in Gaza. The sailors couldn't get off because they're not allowed to step foot on the beach in Gaza. And so they were stranded on the ships. But I think the problem in part was the military is not going to say no, right? I mean, the military, you get your marching orders and bam, you go forward. You'd like to think the higher ups, the generals, Pentagon staff are saying, well, let's think through all the various scenarios. Let's really make sure this is the right thing to do. Let's yada, yada. But at the end of the day, the White House is insisting because, again, the Biden administration is feeling immense pressure. And you can see it every day in the way that they're trying to walk this fine line. Oh, we support Israel. Well, we're warning Israel. They better not do this, or we're withholding weapons and munitions. And, they're constantly talking out of both sides of their mouth, because on the one hand, they know, okay, well, we've got a portion of the population of the U.S. voters that want us to support Israel. And we've got this critically important portion of our Democrat voters that don't want us to support Israel. So they're in a very complex situation right now. And unfortunately, they're allowing their polling and surveys and worries about the vote to drive their interests and their foreign policy decisions.
That's right. $320 million wasted right there. And of course, all the aid ended up in Hamas's hands, of course. I want to jump over to Russia and Ukraine. Read the other day that France is putting some military advisors, Mike, on the ground. Not boots on the ground, not service, but military advisors. Is this just the latest escalation? We're going to keep going in this direction, eventually get maybe American service members on the ground there?
Yeah, look, military advisors on the ground is always sort of one of those initial steps on that slippery slope to more direct engagement. And Emmanuel Macron in France has been, he's been loading up on his testosterone, because for the past month or so, he's really been banging we need to, do more to support Ukraine. We should be, getting in there. I can't say, he's mentioned that, NATO shouldn't, set aside the idea that perhaps NATO troops should be on the ground in Ukraine if things go bad in their efforts to push back the Russian offensive that's currently ongoing. So Macron has been leading that charge. He's even talked about the French nuclear arsenal possibly being, a factor in this at some point. And more so than anything else, right now, even more so, more of a worry than the, deployment of advisors, is this strange tit for tat that's going on between Russia and NATO, some NATO allies, where it almost seems as if we're normalizing the idea of nuclear weapons at some point, tactical nuclear weapons in particular being used. And we're also seeing it elsewhere. We're seeing it with Iran. Iran, talking more about moving their nuclear, abilities from a civilian to a military footing. I mean, look, they've always been moving their way towards a military footing, so that's nonsense that they think, well, maybe we'll pivot. But the point being is you're getting more and more of this discussion out there in the public, and I think that's extremely dangerous, right? We do not want to somehow normalize the idea of nukes. That's not a good place to be.
Yeah. Instead, we should start talking more about poop balloons, which is a word I never thought I'd ever say. North Korea floating these balloons that are carrying plastic bags full of filth and garbage, just landing on the streets of South Korea. Is this a prank, or more than a prank? Like, should we do more than laugh at this? Like, what's happening here?
No, thank God you and I are talking about this, because I don't think a lot of other people are. So we've got this story locked down. Look, it is entertaining on the one hand, right? They basically set, 260, upwards of 270 balloons from North Korea into South Korea, carrying massive bags of garbage and crap, right? Manure, and also it appears human feces. I never thought we'd be having this discussion. But they're doing it in part because in their minds, in Kim Jong-un's mind and his regime's minds, this is just tit for tat. It's retaliation for what the South regularly does, which is send balloons over into the North. But those balloons, rather than carrying garbage and crap, they carry leaflets and USB drives and other media that has information and news. And yes, it's propaganda, but they're trying to provide the North Korean citizens with information that they otherwise are never going to get because of the way that the regime in North Korea locks down on information control. So from the North's perspective, hey, we're doing the same thing. It's just that they don't have any leaflets or news of interest to send. So they're just bagging up garbage and crap and floating it down into South Korea in what they kind of view as hey, you do it to us, we're doing it to you.
Yeah, that's great. All they have is literal poop, literal crap to send.
Yeah,
to send.
There you go.
That's great.
Here's the best message. Oh, and by the way, the South also sends recordings of K-pop music. So maybe that's what really pissed off the North Korean regime. I don't know.
Yeah, this is their number one export now out of North Korea. Mike Baker, host of one of the top podcasts in the whole world right now, President's Daily Brief. Of course, go check it out. Mike, great to talk to you, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.